that ego trying to keep you safe, that ego doesn't know what it's talking about.
That's right. I always say, I appreciate you, thank you, but I got this.
Yeah, but it's so true though that you that we never kind of get past it. It's always going to be there at some level. But obviously, if you can start dealing with it or getting aware of where or when the thoughts are coming up, then obviously it's going to be a little bit easier to move through it.
Absolutely. Just being mindful and checking in with yourself daily and making sure that you're taking time to, if you're not feeling your best, if you're not in a, expansive, pivotal place, to kind of evaluate what's going on and then reach for that next higher level, that next higher vibration. And that's just
Hmm.
keep going up and up and up until, because again, we attract what we are, and energetically, we attract the energy that we put out. So
Absolutely.
just always being aware of, I always like to say you're responsible for the energy you bring into the room. So are you high vibe? Are you low vibe? And just taking ownership of that.
Yeah, because energy is it's contagious. I mean, if you're coming into a room with low vibing energy, that's not gonna go well. It's gonna seem
Yeah.
awkward. It's gonna be people are gonna be looking at you a little bit weird, maybe or stuff like that. But if you're coming in with high vibe energy, people are gonna be, oh yeah, this is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's contagious.
And we all have that friend who's like the total downer. Like every time we hang out with them, we're just like, oh, okay. I was happy when I got here, but now I'm leaving, and I got all this heavy weight on me now that I didn't have when I entered. And I am definitely guilty of taking on other people's energy. I
Hmm.
definitely absorb it. So again, just being aware of that and not taking on other people's energy and just being the bright, vibrant being that you are. So
Hmm. And just people being the downer, as you say. Could it be that they're not fully understanding of or accepting maybe who they are? Because when we before we jumped on, we talked a little bit about human design and stuff like that, and
yeah,
I noticed a shift in my energy once I started to realize how that kind of worked. And maybe that's the case for a lot of people who come across as downer, that they really don't fully accept it or understand themselves.
100%. And there's research out there that says 90% or 80 to 90% of the thoughts that we think today are the same exact thoughts that we thought yesterday. So
Hmm.
how are you ever going to implement anything new or change your life or expand if you're continuously repeating the same pattern over and over and over again? So yeah, you just have to, and when you think of it from that perspective, a perspective of your higher self, like what's the best version of me? How would that person handle this situation? How would that person handle this thought? And take yourself out of it. From the
Hmm.
bird's eye view, that's what I like to do. I like to look at it from the bird's eye view and say, what would the best version of Tanya? How would she handle the situation? And then act accordingly. And that puts you in alignment too with who you truly are. Because we're all meant to
Absolutely.
expand and grow, not meant to be
Hmm.
stagnant. One of my mentors always says, "You're not a tree. Like you don't have to put roots in where you are. You can move, you can expand, you can grow, you can change." So the limits that we place on ourselves are just that, they're self-imposed. So
Hmm.
being aware of them.
Absolutely. We talked a little, or before you talked about a little about tools that you can kind of use to work through the whole imposter syndrome or just the fear of judgment, all that. What are some tools that you've used or some of your clients use to kind of get past all of this?
We do a lot of thought reframing.
Hmm.
So being mindful of the thought as it's occurring, and then you can write it down, you can say it out loud, but then reframing it from a different perspective where you're providing evidence that it's not true.
Hmm.
So money mindset is a huge one, right? We all have
Oh
money
yeah.
trauma and money issues, and there's so many common beliefs that are deep dwelling within our brain that we don't even realize, like money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work really hard for money. But as these things come up, especially as a business owner where you're constantly investing and you're constantly making change, you're growing and scaling, and that costs money, like it costs
Hmm.
resources. So to get over those money blocks and reframe those thoughts and give yourself evidence of the contrary, that actually there's a lot of people that don't work super hard, quote unquote, that are always abundantly wealthy, are always financially, prosperous. So thought reframing is a big one. Mindfulness,
Hmm.
just knowing where you are, checking in with yourself, self-care. So many people go through their days on autopilot, and
Oh
they
yeah.
never once say, okay, what's happening right now and how am I feeling about it? They just, again, repeat the pattern. They get up at the same time. Their morning routine's the same. They take the same commute. They drink from the same coffee cup. They listen to the same songs. And so if you want change, if you want to implement growth and expansion, reevaluating how you spend your time and how it makes you feel, and then following the trail of positive feelings, because it's really your guidance system, your intuition telling you where you should be and what you should be doing. So those are kind of three things that I do for myself, and I like my clients to do too.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Um, I know that we were at the BBD Live for Next Level mastermind group, and we did an exercise there where we kind of addressed the ego of ourselves, and we gave him a name or her a name, and we just let that kind of talk through all the thoughts that we had, and gave that person an identity, kind of the ego identity. And that was really powerful because when you started writing things down, and then you start we were supposed to read this out to another person, and
mm,
that was really powerful when you started had to read this awful things that this person is saying about you. And it helps so much just getting it on the paper and talking to someone about it and just working through it instead of trying to keep it inside. And
mhm.
that was a huge shift for me. I know that was one of the most powerful things I've ever done with that.
Yeah, journaling is powerful. Like it's like getting it out of your head and putting it somewhere else.
Hmm.
There's such a therapeutic part of journaling. It just like almost takes a weight off of you. Like you're physically removing a burden or something heavy and just
Hmm.
putting it out there and saying, okay, this is what's going on. This is how I'm going to fix it. This is how I'm going to navigate around this, through this, under this, over this, whatever you decide to
Exactly.
do.
Hmm. And just talking back to that ego, basically just telling it to shut up. you know
Yeah. Uh huh.
because
Exactly.
it is this other voice, this other person inside of you that's trying to, like you said, keep you safe, but that's not necessary anymore in that sense.
Right. And the other thing too is you can trick your brain.
Hmm.
Because if you think about the responses that your body gives you when you're excited or when you're afraid, so your heart, starts beating rapidly. Maybe your palms start to sweat. You get an achy stomach. All your pupils change. All that stuff. Your body is having the same response whether you're scared or excited. So what
Hmm.
if you took control of that situation and you said, "I'm so excited right now," if you're actually feeling fear, and tricking or manipulating your own brain to believe that you're actually experiencing something positive, that it's preparing you
Hmm.
for something super exciting instead of letting yourself be controlled by the fear that you're actually feeling. Because again, it's
Hmm.
the same response from a
Yeah.
physiological perspective.
And we do the things that we do fair, actually the outcome of it is usually positive things. I mean, even if,
Absolutely.
let's say, you post something, obviously you could get a few negative comments, obviously, but versus all of the good positive comments that you get, I mean, it
And
definitely
we always
outweighs it.
focus on that bad one, don't we?
Obviously, I'm
Always.
not saying that's not happening, but the outcome is mostly positive anyway. So fear itself is, yeah, total BS.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I know one of the exercises that in BBD was that what the fear of that worst case scenario,
Hmm.
actually going there, like visualizing what the actual worst case scenario would be. And then realizing that, this isn't as bad as I made it out to be in my mind. Once I
Hmm.
actually see it and see, okay, if this is the worst case scenario, here are three different things I can do to get out of this. So does the risk outweigh, the positive outcome? And that's kind of how I make decisions. And if I take this risk and I get the best possible outcome, does that outweigh the risk that something negative or unfortunate might happen, or somebody might have a negative comment to say about something that I shared?
Hmm.
And Brene Brown says there's no true bravery without being vulnerable. So if you're not being vulnerable, if you're not putting yourself out there, you're not really being brave. You're putting things out that you want people to see but when you share who you truly are and the things that aren't so pretty, that
Hmm.
maybe you've hidden your whole life, that's when people relate to you. That's when they connect to you. And I used to think that I had to put out this super perfect professional image and a curated uh, personality or persona, basically, or else nobody would trust me to do, nobody would invest in my services, or nobody would trust me to help them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually the opposite. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as I started really saying, okay, what will connect me with my soul aligned clients? And when I started sharing those deep, dark things that I've hidden my whole life, that's when they were like, started connecting with me. And I would get messages, oh, that last post, Tanya, or that email you shared, or your newsletter, I experienced the same exact thing. I feel really
Mm-hmm.
connected with that messaging. Thank you for sharing that. And that's when you truly connect with your clients or the
Yeah.
people you're trying to serve.